So maybe Alex, I can kind of kick off and give a little bit of context on sustainability as a topic and why we picked sustainability as a topic. So this is, as Alex mentioned, the second time we do this report, which has been like by far the most popular piece of content, piece of study that we've done at Pulsar. Why sustainability? Well, in 2021, when we decided to start this. We knew that we wanted to zoom in on topics that were going to be very relevant for our audience, which is of comms, researcher, marketers, everybody in the current audience. And we wanted something that had a lot of questions to be answered around. So in general, like our sweet spot is something that is changing very fast, and where like online culture and online conversation is extremely relevant in defining the shape of that. And we found with sustainability that it was not only a topic that was extremely and strategically important to businesses and organizations around the world and across really all sectors, but also to consumers and citizens, the counterparts of those organizations. But also the fact that the meaning of sustainability in general is something that is not clear. It is we often say that it's a kind of a contested meaning, in the sense that folks are competing for different narratives around sustainability. Or sometimes it's a word whose meaning seems to have almost evaporated entirely, where, does it even mean anything anymore, is something I think that we use like for one of the titles in the previous report that we did in 2021. And so this is kind of the evolution of our journey with sustainability, but it's definitely one of the biggest questions of our time. It's one of the most important concepts of our time, and precisely because it is so important, and because it has so much of a contest within that, it really becomes like super interesting for us to study. We tend to say that different people talk about the same topic differently, and that's something that we've seen over and over throughout the years at Pulsar to be true of so many topics, and this is one of the best examples that we could actually find. So maybe we can go on kind of describe, thank you, this next slide, which is like a kind of the different microcosms of meaning that people associate with sustainability. In this case, this is just a chart that shows like the growing interest in meaning itself. So this is not the sustainability conversation as a whole, but people who are talking or searching. Search data is the blue line that you see here. Questions around what does sustainability mean, or contesting how sustainability might have a certain meaning or another. Dai, maybe you want to jump in here and also talk a little bit about this example that we kind of took from a post on X.
Yeah, as you see here, this is really rich data since the 2018. Definitely there has been a noticeable surge in deepening interest and then engagement with the sustainability around especially the meaning of sustainability. And then like, as evidenced by the Twitter post here, there's a discernible trend where individuals define sustainability as a close alignment with transforming existing projections rather than opting for new acquisition. Also, like for industries, the meaning of sustainability also, seems to be slightly different for their overarching purpose and the operation. So this evolving definition and understanding of sustainability, we can kind of like see how this intersection of personal values and the business objectives kind of like playing out differently.
Awesome. And I think this was a bit of a deep dive into that search line in that previous chart, Dai. Do you want to talk a bit more about what we see here and what you've noticed in this particular part of that conversation?
Yeah, sure. So leveraging our tool structure, we pinpointed the key queries within the sustainability discourse, providing more intimate understanding of the consumer behaviors and actions compared to the social data. What distinguished the 2023 from 2021 is the emergence of sustainability inquiries devoid of the hot air. This nuanced shift introduced diverse definitions that cater to both consumers and an industry. And then more in-depth exploration of this nuance kind of like give us more in-depth discussion actually
Yeah.
we're gonna have with the marketing panel discussion later today. And then also contrasting 2021 data to 2021, the narrative evolves from broad definition to a focus on practical and then adaptable actions at the individual level. This shift underscores the imperative role of sustainability, even throughout business, nonprofit, and then individual responsibility. Also, noticeable compromise on both ends, emphasize on kind of like a wavering commitment to impactful enduring solution. So further exploration of this commitment will be central theme our upcoming discussion with Melissa and then Katrina as well.
Yeah, on our next panel, that is, which everyone here should definitely join us on. These next two slides are very related, Dai. So I don't know if you or David want to steer us through what these two show us.
Yeah, I'd be happy to kind of talk through this. This is a beautiful visualization that we landed on to kind of begin to kind of unpack and decode what is in the sustainability conversation, precisely because there is that cluster and the competition of meaning and of what sustainability actually refers to as a concept and as a word. We began to break it down into these four main buckets. The first one being societal concerns, which is a slightly more expansive view of sustainability that includes like social concerns, sustainability of lifestyle for people around the world, including all sorts of other intersectional and social issues. Then there's the bucket of ecology, the green one that you see over there, that is our more traditional, maybe the most dominant at this point, like kind of understanding and meaning of sustainability that we've been talking about. So within this graph here, you see the growth of the idea of sustainability as an environmental concern. And then as an environmental imperative, like grow over time. This is the relative view. And then we have a couple other buckets. One is product and the other one is business. Product refers to folks describing like a certain sweater or a certain type of furniture as more sustainable than something else. And so it's a product associated kind of conversation, and then a business conversation, which is one where sustainability comes into play as something that businesses and organizations want to associate themselves with. If you go back to the previous slide, sorry, Alex, we were able to see that they're all growing really, really substantial. It's a conversation that continues and continues to grow, and they're all growing at a very fast clip. But while product and business are certainly growing as well, ecology and society are the ones that are growing the fastest. And so if we go back to the other relative view of like, this is kind of the pie, the sustainability conversation, and how it's split and how over time it has shifted, you start to see societal concerns around sustainability become more and more prominent, and ecology definitely becoming like the biggest strand, while relatively product and business kind of shrink. And then I guess like within that, those are very much abstractions. All the graphs that we show are really abstractions of a very large conversation. There's 2.3 million conversations that we're tracking right now. Within that, exactly what is in it, right? Like, I guess when you're representing this kind of conversational data, you're always going back and forth between an abstraction and a representation, like the one that we just shared, and then what's actually in it. What is constituting those types of conversation? And here we have a small selection of posts from some of the platforms that the Pulsar is able to understand and parse. And we have posts from X, from Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, as well as some news. And they show different types of content, different types of conversation. Dai, you know these a little bit better than me, probably. So maybe you can kind of introduce like each one of these and how they're spinning a different vision of sustainability.
Yeah, of course. So this is kind of like the top post when we think about the most influential post across the diverse channels. So the first for the Twitter post on the left side here is kind of like a reshaping sustainability on a consumer level. As you see the three here, the consumer talking about her boyfriend using Classpack since 2013, signaling this is how consumers define sustainability differently. And then we got TikTok, where lots of Gen Z users share practical and cost-effective sustainability tips, contributing to dynamic space of which shared sustainable practice. And then we got Instagram and the Pinterest post where each of the posts offer a unique lens into industry perspectives. So Pinterest here, for instance, talking about how innovative packaging options can make small business practice affordable sustainability while tackling the cost challenges in the sustainability behavior. And then lastly, we got a top news post here, which is driven by Guardian article around the COP28, talking about the wide expression and then sparking conversation around the president of COP28 mention. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Dai. So having gone into the actual data itself, now we're back with another abstraction. I think it's a really interesting one because it shows that in the same way that those 4 different buckets that Davide spoke about earlier, like product, ecology, etc., all show the different types of sustainability conversation growing over time. This one we zoomed in on the topics. So it's specific words that are being mentioned within that broader sustainability conversation. And they give us an indication of, what matters to people at any given time, what are the hot topics being linked with sustainability. Some of this is always going to obey the news cycle. So unsurprisingly, you see stuff like generative AI emerging, but as we'll explore, there are actually some very valid perspectives and takes on it, some genuine links there. At the same time, this has several different levels. So you have the organizational stuff like COP, EU, individuals like Musk, who's actually even more linked to it than Biden, largely because of Tesla and everything that relates to. You've got all the tech stuff, and you've also got the problems and solutions, which range from things like flying and airlines all the way to recycling, which at this point feels almost like the most traditional one of these, to things like renewable energy and carbon. Another way of looking at this, another abstraction, is by looking at the audience who are engaging in the conversation. Now, this can be quite a lot to look at initially. People who know us, know Pulsar, we've seen this before, but for anyone who hasn't, I want to quickly explain what it is on the page here. This is the audience. So these are the people engaging in a given conversation. And the way to read this is the larger the nodes, the more interconnected they are. So we don't want to get too bogged down in the detail about that, but suffice to say, each of these represents a different community as part of the wider audience who are leading the conversation around sustainability. So on the left-hand side, you have the general audience. So these include people like MSNBC progressives and tech bros, crypto investors, who you can imagine crop up quite a lot, but also people with a bit more of a sustainability focus, like sustainability pros, people who mention it a lot with regards to their work, people who are very into infrastructure on a government or a business level, and even farmers, people who engage a lot with the idea of farming sustainably in different countries around the world. What we can also do is, on that previous page, I showed those different bubbles, and one of the largest ones, if you remember, was the AI one. We can look into that and say, okay, this is the sustainable conversation, and these are the people talking about AI within that conversation. And we could also segment them. So we're taking that audience and we're making it more precise and looking with greater detail at these people. And unsurprisingly, you see this is we've got slightly more of a tech focus. So you see people like digital consultants, tech bros, AI researchers, but also climate campaigners and people like that. Now, where things can get really interesting is where you take this information and you choose one or two of these audiences that particularly interest you, and you then overlay it onto something like that topic data. And so what you see here is we've looked at 2 of these segments. So one who we've perhaps cruelly labeled climate nerds, but people who are very into talking about it online and getting very involved in causes, and also AI researchers who obviously are coming to it very much from that specific tech-facing angle. And we can see, looking at the topics here, that each of those communities over-indexes for various topics. So this is how often they talk about it, how much they engage stuff around it online. And some of this is unsurprising, right? So you have the Inflation Reduction Act, Biden's actually released, which is obviously that big push for investment. A lot of this climate conversation among these people was very focused on this win-win mentality where we invest in green energy, everyone wins. They're not one of the degrowth, focused environmental groups that we see. Conversely, AI researchers are, perhaps unsurprisingly, more interested in AI, obviously, but also other tech-related solutions such as the metaverse and even crypto, which both feel like ancient history now, but have various points both being huge topics within the cycle. But also, interestingly, there's a few other things like flying in airlines, COP, carbon itself, where these topics are a little bit over-indexed among these groups, which kind of represents their own interest, the way they talk about things, and yet their vernacular and their own semiotics even. But there's also a way of looking at these groups through a different lens, and that's to take all of these. So you might remember some of these sort of appearing dotted around that audience map and saying like, okay, can we put these guys on a sliding spectrum where we start highlighting something particular in their outlook? This was made by DAI. It's a recent innovation that we developed. And when I say we, I do mean DAI has helped us develop. And so perhaps DAI, you can give us a bit more context as to the thinking behind this and what it shows.
Yeah, as Alex said, this is kind of like a fresh approach to explore audience dynamics in a different way. So having sifted through the layers of a community actively discussing sustainability, I overlaid their attitudes towards sustainability, spanning from optimism to eco-denial. Here we can observe the visual gradient from green to purple, where greener segments signify communities prioritizing hope in their sustainable values, while the more purple regions may indicate a lower embrace of sustainable goals. This comprehensive audience analysis not only exposes the intricate range of attitude within sustainability communities, but also helps business and institutions with actionable insights, providing the groundwork for the targeted communication strategies, and then also allowing tailored engagement with a diverse community segment. So
yeah, this is a very new kind of data visualization for us. So thank you, DAI, for coming up with this. It's a beautiful way to kind of begin to think about how each different community thinks about a certain topic in different ways. And in this case, layering on a dimension, which is a very crucial one. I think anybody involved in sustainability would agree is that element of hope, which can transition from hope to despair to, in this case, eco-denial, and seeing how different communities might gravitate towards a perspective or a certain feeling over time is something that really can help us understand them a little bit better and understand how to communicate with them better.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Now, if I stop sharing there, I think we had one or two questions pop up before we move on to the next session. And obviously in those sessions, as I said, we'll be exploring things like behavior and like the marketing angle in a lot more detail. So please join us for those. There's one that's come up here, which is the onus of sustainability has shifted from individual actions to business organizations. Is that more a result of the pandemic? And obviously there's a little bit of extrapolating there, but I don't know, Davide, for instance, if you want to talk a bit towards that.
Yeah, I think this one was, and thank you for the question. This one was prompted by the initial graphs, which we showed of the different dimensions of sustainability and the ones we see grow a little bit faster than others. So in this case, product and businesses kind of decreasing relatively compared to a view that is more related to ecology. I'm not sure we've drawn that and seen that exact conclusion in the data, that there is definitely like very much an emphasis on individual actions that we've seen across this data set, and you'll see it in the next panel, how certain behaviors are certainly much more into focus as kind of solution-oriented or problem-oriented topics within sustainability. So it definitely is a conversation, as DAI said, that has matured very much since we first started tracking it in 2021. But to To say that this is a radical shift into more individual mode, I'm not sure, because there's a part of the conversation that is very much aware, I've seen, of the scale of the problem and really how each individual action, yes, can contribute to solving, addressing some of these, but it's really something that even sometimes government and corporations or large organizations do not feel super equipped to deal with.
Brilliant. Thank you, Beverly. We had another question, which I think is to Dai, which touches on the wonderful spectrum visualization you showed at the end there, Dai. And someone's asked, is this done by sentiment analysis to group, around hopefulness and stuff? So we don't obviously get super in the weeds of this, because I think we've talked about this for a long time, but if you could give perhaps a very brief answer as to how you look into that. I think it was custom scoring. Am I right?
Yeah. So yeah, although Pulsar offers sentiment analysis as a feature, what I apply here as a methodology is more like gathering out the dimensions related to like a different attitude. For instance, like a hope, like a kind of like the most positive words towards sustainability, whereas like eco-denial is more like really like a pessimistic views, or like more like associated with like a misinformation, something like that. So we kind of like overlay another layer of semantics, how actually public talk about their attitudes towards sustainability, if that makes sense. And then like after that, like I normalize the scores, and then like kind of like a lay up as a spectrum, as you say.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Dai. Yeah. So capturing a Boolean, normalizing it, putting it on there, basically. I think we have time maybe touch on one more question, because we do want to leave a slight gap between the next. And that's just, I think it's one I'm confident Dai you'll be able to answer very quickly. And that's someone's just asked how we define the climate nerds audience. Do you reckon you'll be able to give us a quick answer on that? Just give people a sense of how that's defined in there.
Yeah, so this climate nerd is quite an interesting segment. As Alex already shows, how we actually isolate the communities or like a participant talking about sustainability. Within Pulsar, we can also utilize audience, filters. So where they can cluster kind of like a similar groups, like sharing like a similar like values, and then and then this can be like isolated by AI as well. So so that's how like we can identify this climate nerd segment, and then like we can also see what kind of influencers actually impacted those specific segments, and then obviously those influencers are that kind of like a climate institutions, and then like activist movement. So that's how we can kind of like identify a specific segment.
Awesome. Yeah, so they're sort of like the big channels there. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your questions. We will be continuing this event in the next panel, so please do join us there. We're going to end this one, and Dai and myself, along with a couple of special guests, will see you there. So I hope to see you, as many of you as possible, there shortly. And any question we didn't answer, we'll try and tackle the next one.